tennis shoes the first time I ever made hay, and that was 5 years ago, and there's still hay in it.
It's just fermented hay.
Oh yeah.
All right, I'm gonna wait to nibble on that. All right.
I better start doing that.
No, yeah, that's fine. I'll buy you some time. Back in the studio. Oh, touching the cord. Back in the studio. We've got Taylor Christiansen here. What kind of coffee do you have right now?
This is a Liberation dark roast.
Okay, solid. Good choice. Munching on a scone. The Earl Grey scones are money. But
gosh, so good.
yeah, we're in the studio here plugging right along with the seasonal AF tour. We have, just over a week away from the White Feather Liberation Farm seasonal AF workshop. There's one ticket left as of this recording. I'm hoping it'll be sold by the time this drops. But yeah, we're going to do August CSA box, rabbits from Liberation, and we have a case of upstream cider.
Nice.
So it's going to be a good time. You're going to cook a lot of food, get people talking in the kitchen, demystifying cooking. But yeah, you're on here for many reasons, but the big one, Portage County Giving Gardens. So we have that organization that I want you to talk about, but $5, and I'm either after this third one or after all of them, the check will be cut because it'll look bigger.
Yeah,
bigger
the better.
I'm kind of playing that off, but yeah, Portage County Giving Gardens. Or first off, let's start with who you are, your intro, what you do, where your passion lies, and then we can touch on the Giving Gardens.
Well, my name is Taylor Christiansen. I'm originally from New Berlin, Wisconsin, but now I feel like I am from Stevens Point now that I've been here for 8 years. And I love growing things. And luckily, this community gives me a lot of opportunities to grow in many different ways, and one of which is the Giving Gardens. So that's one of my 4 jobs. But definitely my passion project. That's like really where my heart lies, is with that program. But yeah.
We'll get back to the Giving Gardens more in depth on that. So 8 years ago, you moved here for what?
Oof. So this is, I worked for Farmshed for a time, and this was Lane's favorite story about me. So I moved here to go to Stevens Point, UW Stevens Point, because they had a wildlife ecology degree, and I wanted to save the pandas. I really was passionate about endangered species and World Wildlife Fund, and I thought I was going to work for them.
Why pandas?
Because they're so freaking cute, and like, I don't know, they are total like flagship species, and they're, really unique ecologically. I don't know. Plus, they're like the poster child of WWF, so I just wanted to have their shirts and look cool. But then, like 6 months into that, I was like, no way, I don't want to live in a tent and have like 3-month jobs all of my life, and it wasn't my passion. And then I tried out environmental education. There's a whole like class on how to make posters and stuff, and I was like, I'm not going to do that. So then I landed on land use planning, which got me connected with Farmshed and the campus garden and local farming, and then I literally put roots down. So here I am.
I love the campus garden.
Yeah.
So many hops.
Oh my gosh, I planted those.
Did you?
Yeah, 5 years ago. Although we lost what varieties they are. They're 4 different varieties.
I just fill a trash bag or trash bags.
Yeah, you can, because there's so many.
Beer. Yeah, it's so good. I need to do that. The hops at my house are just little skimpy cones, so a few more weeks, I'm guessing.
Yeah, they're just like the little puff balls at this point. So yeah, give it some time.
I can't wait. Okay, so we've got. All right, I'm trying to. Campus gardens, Farmshed. What was it that attracted you to that? Like, it wasn't pandas.
It wasn't pandas, no. I had a really good friend who I met the first day of school. We're still friends today. Rochelle was really involved with the campus garden. She had a background in farming, and I always, helped with the family garden, but that wasn't where my passion was. But she just told me to come check it out because it was really fun. And I think at that point they were planning for their farmer tribute dinner, so they were thinking about getting apples from somewhere. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun, like making apple cider and doing all that. So I just went over there, and I just couldn't believe how beautiful it was, how friendly the people were. And I don't know, we got to do things right away in that first meeting, get our hands dirty.
Yeah, didn't have to just learn how to make posters.
Exactly. I don't want to learn how to do that. So yeah, so it was very,
I like it.
It was very welcoming.
So prior to that, you hadn't had any experience working on a farm?
No. No.
When and where was your first farm experience?
Well, believe it or not, it was Joel Keenhold. Well, I guess I take that back. So Joel Keenhold was like my real, like, I have a decision-making power and like really helping manage things. But my real first farm experience was with Farmer Mark at Sunny Sky Farm, which they're no longer doing a CSA, but he had hands down the most beautiful vegetable fields I've ever seen in my entire life. And so I was a worker share there for 3 seasons. And so it was just like 4 hours a week. And then I would get like these huge, beautiful boxes. And he'd been one of the first in central Wisconsin to start a CSA like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So we were learning from a master of CSA, at least vegetable growing. So that was my very first farm experience with like hoeing for 3 hours straight and cleaning like scallions for hours and carrots and all that stuff. So that was my first real experience. But then my first job where I got paid to be a farmer, that was at Lonely Oak Farm at Joel Keenhold.
Nice. Solid. Where does kind of the rest of it fit in then, like the Giving Gardens and kind of your evolution of enjoying to grow things and what you do now?
Well, it all kind of happens around the same time, but in 2013, I think that's when I started working for, maybe it wasn't already that early, but in 2013, I was an AmeriCorps member with UW Extension and 4-H, and I started a gleaning program. So gleaning at the farmers market is where we take leftover produce from the farmers and then donate it to local food pantries. And so that was how I got introduced to Hunger and Poverty Prevention Partnership, which is a coalition that is the parent organization of Giving Gardens. So they actually meet in this building, so at the Idea Center,
Nice.
and they have their monthly meetings here, but they address a lot of issues. My interests in programs are more in the hunger realm, but now they're really diving into some really interesting programs more related to the poverty end of things and accessibility. And so I got introduced to them, realized they were doing really great things, and then through other jobs, mostly through Farm Shed, being the volunteer coordinator for 2 years, I learned about the Giving Gardens and worked with the Giving Gardens coordinator. Also, when I worked at the campus garden, I would work with them. So that was Jeremy Erickson. He worked there he managed the Giving Gardens for like 5 years. So he really got them established to what they are today. And around that time, I was I was starting to work at Lonely Oak Farm, so I was managing the CSA and like really getting a lot of great experience. But then after a few years, we just needed to part ways just so then he can, develop his business. I had to focus on my own things. And then that's when, like, fast forward 2 years, and then we came to, December of last year when Jeremy had taken a step back from the program, and they were looking for a coordinator for the Giving Gardens as well as for the Gleaning program, which I had been partially helping with the last 5 years, volunteering my time, but there was other organizations that kind of picked up the slack. And so I wanted to combine that, the Giving Gardens and Gleaning, and the Plant Row, which is where community members can donate produce to different pantry sites or different food distribution centers. And they just wanted to have one single coordinator. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to do that. That's my dream job, is to do all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was just being at the right place at the right time.
Nice. I just pulled up. So for the video version, the Giving Gardens webpage is up, as well as where the garden locations are and all the contact info, and then that goes in the show notes. But this is super cool. Let's dive into kind of each of these entities, or entities works. The Gleaning program, what exactly is that?
Yeah, so gleaning is, the term gleaning has its roots in biblical terms, where people would go out into the field and take leftover produce or grain or whatever after the farmers have been through. And that's, I guess, more the traditional style, but the more modern view of it is that you take away that extra labor of getting out to the farm and processing the food and being able to store it and transport it. And now we're just going to the farmer's market where the produce is already prepped and ready to be consumed. And we divert a waste stream for farmers who maybe don't sell all their produce, or they don't have livestock to feed it to, or they don't have enough storage for their own family to consume. And we just divert that into local food pantries, which are always looking for produce. And that's one of the first things. If they have money, they're going to buy dairy or produce. And if we can provide free produce, especially local produce that's grown by our farmer friends, then that's all the better. So it's just a really short volunteer commitment. It's all volunteer led, except for myself, who's the coordinator. But it's 2 hours on a Saturday. You get there around 12:30. You distribute these big blue IKEA bags, which really that's how the farmers know it. They don't know it as gleaning. They know it as the blue bag donation thing. And you hand them out to the people that want to participate, and then they fill them up with whatever they don't think they can sell another day or whatever they don't think they can process at home. And then we come back around in an hour and then pick them back up, and then we do weigh them for and record the weight donated from each vendor, because at the end of the season they can get a tax deduction from all their donations, so they get $1.69 per pound of produce donated deducted. So and then we also include the directions on how to do that, because it's kind of confusing for a Schedule F. So
I like it.
Yeah.
Solid. And then the giving gardens.
Yeah.
Kind of currently it looks like there are 10 giving gardens.
15.
There's 15.
Yeah, I don't know what website you're on. It might be old.
UW Extension.
Oh. Yeah, I would go under hppp/pc.org. That's the Hunger Poverty Prevention Partnership website.
There we go. I think I found the new one.
That one might be more up to date. But
yeah, there's 16 on this one.
Yeah, one of them, that's including Farm Shed, which technically that's where we started all of our seeds, but that we don't have any like active growing happening right now. But
and then this is a random tangent. You do website development as well?
No, I don't.
I thought you updated Joel's website.
Well, we created the website.
Okay.
But Squarespace is so easy to use. Like, I mean, it's Squarespace that makes it look beautiful. I just like click, yes, I want that pretty thing. So that's, yeah.
It's more than Joel can do.
Yeah, right.
Love you, Joel. All right, so we've got the 16 or 15 giving gardens. Where exactly are these? What are they?
You're gonna quiz me?
Yeah.
Oof. All right.
I guess maybe not specific like street, but just like general location. Are these like in rural settings? Are they in town? Like that kind of thing.
They're all pretty much within the city limits of Stevens Point and Plover. There was one out in Junction City, but right now it's just on a hiatus just because it's overgrown, so we're trying to reimagine what that can look like. But
and these are just in people's yards, like someone signs up and
no, this is they're more organization based, so I can list some of them off at least. So like each of the Boys and Girls Clubs, the Burrard Center and the Plover Boys and Girls Club, they each have a giving garden. The Lincoln Center, so right across the street here, or the ADRC, the Campus Garden is included as a giving garden. There's one small garden right by Triggs that's out like in the corner of this medical building's yard. There's McDill Community Gardens, so that's like, and that's a more unique situation because it's a huge plot that multiple community members can buy into. Like they rent the plot to grow their own gardens, and we are just gifted 3 of those garden sites. But and they have their own irrigation and stuff. So that's at McDill School, but it's McDill Community Gardens. There's also one at the Ruth Gilfrey Center, so like the Health and Human Services building. There's a little plot there. So these are all like, there's usually an organization either tied to it or sponsoring it and through their labor, like the YMCA. They have AmeriCorps members who maintain a beautiful, enormous garden. And so I just go over there just to marvel at it, really. Like they don't need anything from me. So it's great that they have that, management skill. But and same with the campus garden. I mean, they have paid coordinators or paid managers who take care of those gardens. But there are a few sites that we take care of 100%. Another good one is at Interfaith Food Pantry, and that's a really great situation because the clients that come and pick up food shares on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays, they can just go pick their own produce. Like if anything's ripe, I mean, they're welcome to pick it. And right now, or I guess the strawberries are done, but there's a lot of strawberries. There's cherry tomatoes starting up, and so it's really cool that they can just pick their own. That they can be actively part of their food pickup process.
I love that. That's awesome. I was talking to Ellen out at Lonely Oak when we were processing the CSA boxes, because she was talking about the WIC program and how I guess that's just starting to incorporate CSA shares. Like that money can go towards that, and it's like, yeah, duh. I like, to the program, like the fact that that's a new thing when that should almost have been where it started. Like,
well, Food Share always has had that opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Food Share has, but kind of like the idea that people within even a certain radius of the local farms that are on that program. That should, just be like almost part of it. But so it's cool to see that it's happening.
Yeah.
As well as the giving gardens. So with the giving gardens, the people that volunteer, they go out to work at some of these other locations where you have access to the gardens.
So
what does that look like?
As the coordinator, I have 2 interns, volunteer interns, Rachel and Omari this summer. And usually we can have as many as we want. This year we had 2 that were able to stick with it. And so they volunteer 3 to 5 hours a week. And then we go to all different garden sites. And really some of them, like I said, like some of them are way more self-contained than others. So like the Boys and Girls Club, they have like a garden club. So they have kids out there interacting with the garden even when I'm not there. But we just really go check on different garden sites, mulch and weed mostly. And then now we're getting into like visiting more frequently so we can harvest. Yeah. But really we're the main ones visiting just a few of the garden sites. But then otherwise, the garden sites that are managing themselves, they just record what they donate. So like what they pick and then where they donate it to. And then we just collect those numbers at the end of the year so we know how much they're producing. More so, I mean, not to like judge them or anything, but just to be like, oh, wow, they, grew this much. Like Frame Church, they have only like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 garden beds. Not that much. And they're in like a relatively shady area, but they grew 492 pounds of produce last year. Wow. And I think this year their goal is to break 500 because, I mean, they're so close, like 2 more tomatoes and like really big tomatoes, and they would have had 500 pounds last year. But yeah, so they, really the garden sites, a lot of them do maintain themselves, which is great.
Love that. That's awesome. Where do you see this program going? How do you want it to grow? Oof. What are your goals there?
Yeah, well, that's a great question because I personally would love to see this position turn into, well, right now, like I average 6 hours a week doing this, which isn't very much. And that is averaged throughout the entire year. So there are weeks that I do like 10 hours during the summer and where I'd only do like 2 hours during the winter, like a week. So I would like this to turn into like a half-time job at least, where it's coordinating multiple local food things. But right now we're actually working on, I don't think this is too secret because is it a grant that it's due like next week. But we're working on a position called a local food access coordinator. And so that would, the grant is supposed to be looking, or is asking for card readers like EBT, so electronic benefits transfer, meaning like you can use your food stamps or food share dollars, and credit and debit for up to 20 vendors at the farmers market in the first year and then a certain number the second year. But the idea is that then you can have direct benefits transfer between individuals and the farmer. So that way you don't have to do the wooden token thing that we've done in the past, which just like adds all these other steps. And so having that be part of this position, because then it would not only be increasing revenue for farmers, which is always a nice side benefit, especially when a lot of them would qualify as like participants in the food share program, which is, unfortunate to think about, but also to increase access for people who may not feel like they can, or that the farmers market is accessible to them, at least monetarily. And so like that would be part of it, but also the giving gardens, I would love to see like a giving farm, like an urban farm where there's actual production, meaning like it's like what you see at a CSA farm where there's, neatly manicured rows and there's, light machinery that can help with that. And we're producing large amounts of food because right now we are depending mostly on like most of our plant donations, or most of our plants were donations, which meant we had no say in what they are. We don't really know what the varieties are half the time. Like a lot of the tomatoes we would just get and then we're like, oh, I wonder if it's a cherry or a beefsteak or a Roma or a colored one, or I don't know. And so like we didn't really have a ton of decision making in that. And so it would be nice to like have more ability to like plan out exactly what we'd need. Also to plan out things that I know people can use easily, like preferably vegetables and fruits that you don't need to cook, because not everybody has access to like even oil or like a stove or whatever to cook with, or they don't have a sharp knife to prepare a lot of these things. So this would be nice to like focus on more foods that are easily and readily eatable.
Yeah.
But that's what I would like to see. But I also like have my own farming dreams, where I would get paid for the produce I grow, not necessarily just like growing everything. But I think it would be a really unique thing to be able to grow for what the community needs, in addition to what the community wants and is willing to pay for.
Solid. And then how do people get involved? If they're just listening to this and they want to get involved, learn more, donate, or volunteer, what do they need to do?
Yeah, so they can contact me at givinggardenswi@gmail.com. Probably the easiest way is to glean. Every Saturday we need gleaners from July until the end of October. And you get to hang out at the farmer's market. It's 2 hours. Some weekends you don't even need a vehicle. You can bike there because the produce gets taken away by the pantry. Like they come and pick it up themselves. Other weeks you might need to take it over to the community thrift store, which isn't really that far away. So that'd probably be the easiest way. I know a lot of people are interested in giving gardens, but due to the nature of they're really small gardens and we're only there for like maybe 20 minutes. So unless, we are able to coordinate an exact time in which we can meet and I can carpool, it can be a little bit more difficult. But that's where if we had like a urban farm, then we could just say, hey, meet at the farm at this time. But anyway, I digress.
I like it. I like it.
But yeah, if you really have a super flexible schedule and am able to meet, I think we're going to keep our Monday afternoons. That's like mostly when we do Giving Gardens things, then like at the garden sites. Then contact me and let me know and say that you're really good at weeding because that's what we need.
Man, I need that in my garden. I started strong and then I just peter off on the weeding.
Yeah, well, once the vegetables get tall enough, then it's
fine.
Yeah,
exactly. You're like, yeah, you're fine. You'll be all right. Let's. You have anything else you want to add about the Giving Gardens before we move on?
Well, I mean, the Giving Gardens, I guess to explain the giving part of it. So the majority of the produce that we grow does get donated to local food pantries or like the Salvation Army Hope Center, which uses it on site. But there are a lot of really unique, like I mentioned with Interfaith, how the clients just can pick the produce right there. The Boys and Girls Club also use it within their snack program. The YMCA like harvests stuff and uses it within their snack program. Campus Garden, like they're welcome to do a small farmers market and raise money for the organization. So in the Giving Gardens, I mean, it's giving in a broad sense to the community. It's not like we can only give to food pantries, because food pantries are just one of many ways that people can access food. Like at the Lincoln Center, they offer a lunch every single day of the week, and they utilize what produce they can from their own garden or from community donations. So really giving is just like in a broad sense. We're just giving back to the community.
Solid. I like it.
Yeah.
You want to go on to co-op, so job number 2?
Yes, job number 2. I guess it should be job number 1 because it's like 30 hours a week as compared to 6.
There you go.
But
compared to 6.
But yeah, so I work at the Stevens Point Area Co-op, as you can tell from my T-shirt here. But yeah, I just started in January and I love it. It's really unique to be part of a cooperative management structure. I'm used to, like when I worked for Joel, it was like Joel's a farmer, I'm the employee, maybe one other employee, and then that's it. Like Joel had final say. Or I've worked at other businesses where like there's a boss and they say what's going on and then that's it. But I feel like at the co-op, I mean, from day one, I was, my opinion was considered in a different sort of way, in that like, oh, we're actually going to look into this now. Like, oh, I'll think about it and then it'll inform my decision. Now it's like, let's have it inform our decision as like a group. So right now I'm just cashiering and then bulk assisting like in the bulk department. So making sure that the storefront stays well stocked and helping Lynn with everything that they need to keep the department running. And then I help a little bit in our health and wellness section as well, because I worked at Family Natural Foods, or still work at Family Natural Foods for 4 years almost, or more than that. No, I think 4 years. So I just have a lot of experience with supplements and that kind of stuff too. So it's fun. It's great.
Solid. Yeah. How much of kind of touching then on what you do with the Giving Gardens and then with the co-op and the different leadership structure they have there, does that play a role in how you're developing your own future farm empire or farm business?
Well, if anything, I see how the co-op see their values and see like what they require from their like local farmers. So I know like how I can actively participate, whether it be my own farming operation or with like the giving gardens. So like, for example, the giving gardens were the recipient of all the money raised from their like scratch and dent bin. So like once produce gets to be like not so beautiful, they put it in the scratch and dent bin, so you can buy it for 99 cents a pound or 84 cents a pound if you're a member. And then all of those proceeds went to giving gardens for the first 6 months of the year. The second 6 months they're going to Interfaith Food Pantry, which is also a giving garden site. Isn't that crazy? But I can just see how different organizations or businesses can plug into the co-op. Like it's not just like the co-op can buy your produce. It can also be partnerships and really unique like educational series, like in their Snowball Effect series in the winter. And so yeah, if anything, I'm just learning more about how to get plugged in or how to plug in with other great organizations and businesses that the co-op is currently working with.
I like it. I got it. With the co-op, I worked at a grocery store for a while, managing it as a night manager. It wasn't.
Which one?
This is back up in Merrill, Piggly Wiggly.
Piggly Wiggly.
I worked
nice.
at Piggly Wiggly for a while. But you see trends in customers and what is kind of the fad diets, foods.
Keto, jeez.
Exactly. Superfoods, kind of all that kind of stuff that kind of cyclical and cycles through the world of food. Have you seen any of that? What does that look like at the co-op? I'm curious because I'm sure it's different. The co-op has a very different customer demographic than
the Piggly Wiggly and Merrill.
Yeah, a big box store like Piggly Wiggly and Merrill. So I'm curious what that would look like.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting going from Family Natural Foods in Wisconsin Rapids to the co-op in Stevens Point. Because, I mean, in Rapids, that business has been there for 70 years.
It's so crazy.
So there are people that have been going there their entire life. Just as, like, before it was, like, the feed mill that you'd also, like, pick up your multivitamins. And then, like, as they got older, like, they always had, like, the Earth Crust cookies and, like, all this stuff. So it's interesting to see that change because at the co-op, you see a lot more, like, or at least I've been seeing a lot more people that move to the community that want to join in the co-op right away because they like want to get in, like interested in local food, and so they see like that or healthy food at least, and they see that the co-op represents that, so they like, oh, I just moved here, I got to get my membership, which is really encouraging that they seek that out. So that tells me that there is like if there is an active interest in healthy foods, that once you move someplace you're going to look for it immediately, which is great.
I like it.
I guess there is there is a looking for local food because we do put, especially on produce, Melissa does a wonderful job of putting the origin of all the produce, whether it be like from this country or from this state or whatever. So I do hear sometimes where people be like, oh, I'll just wait until like the cucumbers are from Wisconsin or like, oh, whatever, which I mean is cool. Like that's great. And I mean, I'm glad that they're paying attention to it. I don't know. I mean, like when you're talking about the fads, I think like keto is definitely like one thing. Keto and like gluten-free and some of those other like really specific diets brings in customers that maybe wouldn't normally shop at the co-op, but they think, oh, I need this weird food for this weird recipe. I'll go to the co-op and like they'll have it. And like a good amount of the time we do. Yeah. So if anything, I see that like that's how we can get new people in is by being like the weird store.
Yeah, definitely. And that's at the gym, that was the whole reason to kind of try pushing for talking to the farmers and getting the workshops at Farm Shed going was I was seeing a lot more of, there's always the fad diets and especially health and fitness. Like that's just unfortunately the nature of the beast for now. But more people were starting to cook, which was exciting because there was a shift from shakes, bars, all this like nonsense. Like when I first moved to Point, the gym I worked at, I was even told multiple times like people were afraid of food, like afraid of sugar, afraid of this, that, and the other thing, gluten. Like because there's so much fear mongering in the world of, well, even what we get from the government. It's like, well, don't eat this. 4 months later, well, we were wrong. Never mind. The research was inconclusive, and we just. There's a lot of journalism out there that just kind of like jumps on it, and obviously clickbait, that's how they sell things. But it's been slowly this will be 5th year we've lived here. is just continuing to try to get people to like, hey, no, food, that's the first step. You can get weird as you want with it later, but food is the first step. And definitely my own personal shift is realizing like the local food that we can support, buy, eat is what really is going to help save the world, for lack of a better term. Is and they're proving that with more and more of the regenerative agriculture, looking at food systems. So that was kind of what for me spurred it. Was like, all right, I need to do something that's hopefully going to gain some steam, build up some energy in like this space of health and fitness, because obviously there's this world of local food in Stevens Point that's huge, that's strong. But when I go to those events, it's like the same people. And then when I go to fitness events, it's the same people. And I'm like, well, why can't I bring these two together?
For sure. And
everyone's super into eat for performance, macronutrients, like we've been talking about the weird diets. And I'm like, that's cool if that's what gets you starting to become more aware. But I think instead of getting that crazy with things, like just eat locally, eat seasonally. And a lot of what you're looking for will happen without having to count things, without having to label your diet, without having to become dogmatic and be like, well, cutting all this stuff worked for me, so it's got to work for everyone else. And it's like, no, just eat real food, eat in moderation, eat seasonally, and eat what works for your cultural reasons, your religious reasons, your like what feels good, what makes you, what satiates your hunger, and be it vegetarian, be it omnivore, whatever you want. But yeah, I'm a big fan of local and seasonal, so that was kind of why I was bringing it all together. So I was just curious what if any kind of waves you had seen in the co-op world. But,
yeah, those are the big ones. I mean, the next big wave I think that we're gonna jump, or whatever you do when you come to a wave, hop on, get on the surfboard, whatever. There you go. Is the CBD train, of course. That's the Jesus, that's like so big right now. And I mean, like I've seen other big things, like when I was at Family Natural Foods, when I first started working there, like turmeric was really big, and it still is. But like curcumin and like all that stuff, like that was really big. And then I don't know, there's a little bit of like superfoods in there, and then yada yada. But yeah, like the CBD is like so big everywhere now, and I don't know. So that is something. And I think if anything, the co-op, like once we get our ducks in a row and we're able to offer it, I think customers will come to us because they want to get a good, like, reliable, trustworthy source of it, rather than, no offense, but Family Video. I mean, come on, like, people don't want to buy stuff from there. So I think like that's gonna be like the next thing. But also, and then seeing CBD infused in everything, or like other hemp products, and then having to switch to like local hemp. I mean, like I know a lot of people that are growing hemp for CBD, just trying it out in Wisconsin now that they can. And so I'm interested to see how that goes, like if we're gonna have like hemp byproducts and hemp protein powders and hemp whatever else, kind of like with whey protein in the dairy state. I mean, how that became a really profitable side business. So although it's interesting because I think whey has kind of had its heyday. Like, I don't know, at least what I'm seeing is people looking for more plant-based things, whether that be because they're going to a health food store because they don't eat meat or other animal byproducts, or if they just see like that plant-based things are better and they don't like eating plants, so they'll just have it in powder form. I don't know, but yeah, so that'll be the next one, I'm assuming.
Definitely. I actually forgot about CBD for a little bit.
That's okay. That's okay. But, that's good to do.
Yeah, it's always interesting. So with yourself, I guess, what kind of you don't have to talk about it, but like new diet, food, like where kind of from the mental health and the physical health point of it, what does that look like for you?
Well, it's been a journey, as I'm sure everyone has their own food story, which especially I was vegetarian for 9 years, and so I know the jokes of like, how do you know if you have a vegan over for dinner? They tell you in the first 5 minutes, like, like those. I get that, and I've been those jokes. I lived it, so it's But yeah, so I mean, like, I think I went from, you know, a 13-year-old's understanding of food system of like, oh, animals are treated horribly and I shouldn't be eating them because they're living things and blah, 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 blah. And at that point I was living in the suburbs of Milwaukee. So like really my access to local food, unless I like actively sought it out, like it wasn't like I could go to Pick and Save and get like, you know, brats from a local farmer like I could at the co-op.
Oh.
But so like maybe, I mean, at that point it did make a little bit more sense, because if I was going to choose something sustainable, then I guess vegetarianism was better. Although I was eating a lot of like Morningstar and like soy whatever protein. Ugh. I mean, they tasted fine with a whole bunch of ketchup, but otherwise like they were not good. But I did that for a while, and then I came to school, like tried to maintain the vegetarian thing. And I mean, I did for a time, but then once again, Joel Keenholm came into my life. And the first day I go to work for him, or more specifically his mom, Karen.
I love her.
Yeah, she's great and an amazing cook. And so the first day she makes this, I mean, it was so good, but it was a hamburger soup. And I was a vegetarian. And he didn't tell her that. Because I don't even know if he knew.
Not.
Yeah. And so I wasn't going to be rude. Like,
well, that just means you eat less meat.
Well, yeah, right. I don't cook it, but I eat it, I guess. But I mean, like, I wasn't going to turn it down. Like, I didn't make a fuss or anything. And I was just like, you know what? This beef was beef that he had raised, and this was made with love, and like I'm just gonna eat it. And so then after that, like seeing the animals that he was working with, and I guess like actually helping to raise livestock, which I've never done before, or like seeing a pig in its quote natural environment, if a pig yard is natural, but I mean his is, you know, more so than like the concrete pads that a lot of other pigs are raised on. So like after seeing that, then I was like, well, not all meat is the same. And not all food is the same. Like, it's not like if I just cut out all meat that I'm living more sustainably. Because, like I had done before, I turned then to, like, highly processed meat substitutes, which isn't local by any means. So that was my first, like, switch into I should just eat more things that are local. And then, coincidentally, things that are local generally are not nearly as processed. They have fewer ingredients, or they're just a single ingredient. And they're fresher, and they have more nutrients in general, so then you don't have to take a multivitamin, because you're already getting like the full potency of this vegetable that was picked 2 days ago that you're eating. So that like started my transition into like just eating better, and just knowing, and like not being afraid, like you said, like that fear. I mean, we grew up in a time where like low fat, like margarine over butter, and like eggs are questionable. And so like just breaking all those down to like, I'm just gonna eat simple things that like make sense. Like butter is fine because it's like 2 ingredients. It's like just cream, or like 1 ingredient, or salt, you know, if you get salted, whatever. So like just not being afraid just to try things, and even just throwing things in a pot or pan and just hoping for the best.
That's my favorite. I literally did that last night I had a deer shoulder, and I've been tweaking some things to prep for the goat shoulder in November from Liberation. And I was just like, I don't know how this is going to turn out. No. Turned out pretty good.
Yeah.
I chopped up one of those whole heads of cabbage from Joel's CSA box. I just threw that in there.
Yeah. The pointy ones?
Yeah. I made it into like pinwheel slices, and I lined it up around the roast. So then they like kind of cooked and wilted down.
Nice.
Solid. It turned out good. I had it as nachos.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Cabbage nachos?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I could dig that.
Yeah, it was good. Enjoyed it a lot. I'll make one for a work night at the farm.
Yeah.
That you can make with all your other jobs.
Yeah, right.
But so going off of kind of your food journey, the farm journey, you also are a dance instructor.
Yeah, I am.
So I'm big at, for me, all of these things kind of piece together for someone's story, their journey, kind of how they see things. Where and how does dance kind of fit into your mental and physical health?
Yeah, well,
how long have you danced? Start there, and if you want to bring it full circle.
So I've been dancing for 3 years, and this is, I mean, I guess I could struggle through floor dancing, but this is aerial dancing. So, like, if you've ever seen Cirque du Soleil, or, like, well, I'm not nearly as good as that. But, like, the silks and the fabrics and, like, the metal lyra hoop and things. So that's more so, like, the kind of dance we're talking about. But I'm just going to refer to it as dance, because aerial dance makes it sound like the mermaid or something. But, so aerial dance has been in my life for 3 years, which I'm very grateful for, because I I guess to go back. So in high school, I was a runner, and I was a long distance runner, and I really liked it. But then I was just having some like health issues, and like I have a scoliosis, so like my back would really hurt because all that like compression was not good, especially like in
Were you a vegetarian then?
I was a vegetarian then, so that doesn't help either. So I mean, a myriad of things. And so then in high school, I turned to rock climbing. And so I loved rock climbing. I got a job at the rock climbing gym, Adventure Rock in Brookfield, Wisconsin, or Pewaukee, Wisconsin. They have another one in Milwaukee, just making a plug. Nice. But yeah, so I loved it there. And I loved the physical activity because you're working hard, but you're like not really thinking about how hard you're working because you're figuring out this puzzle. Like you're getting to the top of the wall, and like then you get down and you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired and I can't feel my forearms and oh my God. But also on top of that, I was part of a wonderful community of people that were supportive and that were just like super friendly and like helpful and hilarious. And so that's when I learned, like, when I want to do physically active things, like that's what I'm looking for as a community. And I had that in track and cross country, and that's probably why I put up with it for so long, because I love the people so much. And so then here is this rock climbing thing, which really gets your upper body going, which I love having my big biceps and like, then it's also not like so taxing on like me physically. I mean, it is like, on your fingertips and, stuff like that. And if you fall, it could hurt. But yeah, so I loved rock climbing so much. And then when I moved to Stevens Point, they had a rock wall. Not saying that was part of my decision making, but it definitely was a cherry on top for like coming to school here. And literally the first night that the wall was open, I went to go there with a friend who I knew back from Adventure Rock. And I ended up working that night because they were so short staffed. There were so many people there that I was teaching belay school and teaching who would be later on my really good college friends how to rock climb, like how to tie knots and belay. And so like then after that night I was hooked, and so I was there all the time. My dorm for the first year was Price Sims, which is, if you know Stevens Point, it's right across, like 2-second walk away from the climbing gym. So I spent the majority of my time there, and then became the manager within 6 months of getting to school there. So that was my activity, was rock climbing, and I didn't really have time for anything else. Like it was just rock climbing. And then after a while, like after I graduated and obviously wasn't managing anymore, and a lot of my friends had moved away, then I, was left with these biceps and had nothing to do with them. So I would like try to, bike or like stay active in other ways, but I just like wasn't really finding the right thing. And then the Aerial Dance Studio had been in the community for a time, and I went to go, they saw that they had a show coming up, and I didn't actually make it to that one, but I saw videos of what they were doing, and I was like, this is really cool, and like it uses strength, and I had a dance history from when I was a kid, and so I was like, well, I can just combine all those things into one and have a good time, hopefully. And so in January of 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, 3.5 years ago, of a long time ago. Of a long time ago. Then I went and took an intro class, and I loved it. And it's the same idea as rock climbing, in that you're like trying to do these certain moves and trying to make it look good, like with pointed toes or like, straight arms or whatever. And then you get down and you're like, panting because you're working so hard. But when you're up there, you don't even have any idea. Yep. Plus, it's like survival instinct of like, don't let go, Taylor, otherwise you will fall 15 feet. So that, I guess, is also part of rock climbing. But yeah.
So you like falling?
They're called drops because you don't fall all the way to the ground. Okay. A fall means you hit the ground. Drop means that you stop before you hit the ground.
Good to know.
Yeah, but yes, I do. Yeah.
Fair enough. And so where kind of, and now you what do you call it? Coach, teach, or instruct? Dance. What is it called?
Instruct.
Instruct.
Teach.
Okay. What I was gonna say, what's the preferred verbiage? Everyone's different. Every profession that teaches, instructs, or coaches something likes to call it something else.
I don't think I'm that picky, but I guess instruct sounds more.
I'm not picky, but when it comes to like the world of strength and conditioning, or fitness, there's people who will call themselves trainers, and there's other people who hate that word. They're like, oh, you train dogs. I coach people. I'm like, okay, slow clap.
Yeah.
Cool. People are going to call you a trainer, so you should probably get over it, unless you're going to explain that to everyone. And then in the world with my athletic training degree, they hate being called trainers. I'm like, well, then why did you pick to call yourselves athletic trainers?
Yep.
Guess what? Humans are lazy, and people will call you trainers. So that's funny. I enjoy calling them trainers, and then they got mad at me. I'm like, settle down. But yeah, anyways, side tangent. How does dance instructing, how does that all kind of fit into your psyche now?
Well, a good question. I think I missed the instructing. See, I think instructor, because I feel like instructor is more actively involved in the learning process. Teaching, I just think of like a teacher is standing up, the kids are sitting down, and then like I'm telling you things, and then you have to remember them. So like I miss the instruction of like when I worked as a climbing instructor and would teach skills or instruct skills, whatever. So I miss that interaction and seeing that growth in a person going from like, oh, I can't do this is impossible, to like flying up a wall or flying up into the air. And so I definitely missed that. But also, I mean, much like my climbing community, I've found a great community and love my aerial dance community. And I just wanted to become more of an active role in this, like, you know, new iteration of this aerial dance studio. So, and I was friends with other instructors. And so I, you know, was asked to become an instructor, and I, you know, thought that'd be a perfect fit. And so right now I'm just teaching. I'm about to start an intro class next Tuesday. Tuesdays at 6:15, and this will be like the second aerial intro class that I would have taught. It's a 6-week series. And then I also teach an ARX, an aerial resistance cross training class, which is on usually Friday mornings, but we're going to be switching up the schedule. But it's like, we have 5 stations. You do them 6 times, 45 seconds on, 15 seconds transition to the next station. So that was really born out of my want to improve my aerial dance through like strength and conditioning, and also I finished the group fitness instructor certification from AFA, and so through that I learned a lot more about different movements and different like support structures within the body, and how in aerial dance, much with a lot of other specific sports, you use very specific muscles, and like there is like certain support like in different movements, but there wasn't the like conditioning or strength component to it that at least I was seeing in our classes. So so now it just fits in as like my fun thing. Because whatever nights I don't teach, so I teach on Tuesdays, I go to dance on Mondays. If I'm not working another job, I try to go at least one other night a week. This last like 5 or 6 weeks, we've been going to the Levitt Amp music concert series. So we've been at the park with our portable rig, and we set it all up and get to do aerials outside, which is super fun. So you said right now it's like it's my fun thing. It's like I don't really consider it a job. Plus it's like 2 hours a week, but like it's just the thing I schedule and make sure I do to have fun.
I like it. What's your 4th job then? So we've got the Giving Gardens and Gleaning. Are those like one and the same?
One and the same.
And then the co-op, dance. What's
Family Natural Foods.
Oh yeah, that's right. Family Natural Foods, which has been around for 74 years.
And well, technically their anniversary's in the spring, but they always have their anniversary sale in the fall, first weekend of October.
Good to know.
Yeah.
You're a great employee that you remember that.
Apparently.
So we'll wrap this up since you got to get running to all your things. How do you want to wrap up the idea of local food, health, fitness, wellness? What is that? What do you want to, how do you want to conclude it?
Oh, that's, I should have studied for this. I think, on the basis of what we've been talking about today, like food doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to think that much about it. And I think right now we're seeing a lot of people fretting about what they're putting in their face and thinking that it's going to make them fat or slow or weak or whatever. I think it can be so simple, and or at least it's as simple as you can make it. I mean, I understand that, especially in the families that are receiving Giving Gardens produce, that there are, dozens of other stresses that are way more important than what exactly you're putting like on the table for your family. It's really just like getting something on the table. And like for those families that have all those stresses, I'm honored to provide an easy produce source for them, so then they don't have that extra stress of getting something not only on the table but something healthy. So I guess in one way I'm very grateful in that, and then I'm also grateful that the co-op provides healthy, wonderful food options year round to those who either can't afford to pay that extra like premium for, local high quality things, or those that are just seeking it out and they're prioritizing that in their food budget. So I guess like there's a wide gamut of people that consume food, of course, and their accessibility to that. And so if we can live in this wonderful small community where we can create food equity, where we raise up the people that don't have easily access to produce by providing that produce, and also providing produce to those for a cost that then can be paid to a farmer, which then can be integrated in the local food system, local economy, keep it all going so we can keep these other programs going that support the free produce. Like, it all works together, whether you can afford a $10 melon or whether you receive a free one from your local food distribution center. It's still local. It's still a single ingredient. It's still a fruit that's really good for you and really wholesome and is going to bring people together because the melon's really big. So you got to eat it with some friends and family.
I love that. That's the idea of forging, community or stronger family ties through food is huge. We've created lives that are so busy and crazy and hectic. Like you're talking about people, there's people who are privileged enough where they're eating 0-calorie foods, which is crazy and insane to think about. The first time in human history that we have that option, because we have so much plenty that some people were privileged enough to be like, oh, I'm going to put something that has 0 caloric benefit in my face hole. And then there's other people who are like, I have a family of 5 and I don't know what we're going to eat for the next meal.
Or I'm going to spend $1 and get 500 calories as opposed to spending $5 and getting 0 calories.
Correct. So it's a crazy system we've created, but also we've become so busy that just sitting down and eating with, friends, family is a luxury or something that just doesn't exist. Like we're eating in the cars, we're driving all over the place. But yeah, so taking that time and enjoying the food, having the food tell a story is also kind of part of this whole seasonal AF thing. And I'm glad you had that in your summary. That's cool. People can reach you at, I had it up, Giving Gardens. Where's the email?
givinggardenswi@gmail.com.
Oh yeah, right there. There it is.
We're also on Facebook and Instagram. Those are also ways you can reach me.
Perfect. And then Intro to Dance Tuesday nights.
Yeah, Tuesday nights. You have to sign up soon because we only got like 1 or 2 spots left. So, but we'll have them going probably all through the winter because I know summer's a really busy time for people. So.
And then Gleaning Gardens every Saturday.
Yeah.
Or Gleaning program every Saturday.
Yep. Gleaning at the market.
Bam. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Taylor.
Thank you.